Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Heroes as Collectibles podcast. Tonight we'll be talking about Image, miscellaneous publishers, and how we feel about them, some of the books we like. So we're going to get away from Marvel and DC for a little bit. We do have a guest star today. So let's start off with introductions. My name is Blake Britton. To my right is our new guest speaker, I guess, James Holes Richter. To the right is a good staple of ours, Danny Humphrey. And last but not least, again, Cameron Cavett. All right, so you notice that Darren is not here today. He decided to go fight for mutant rights, mostly on the Cyclops side. So we figured we'd let him go for it.
Dishes.
Is that what mutants do now?
He's my BFF love brother.
It's kind of it's kind of like holding it together because we harbor them from Mpox, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, if Darren was here.
We'd all be eating optic blast.
Yes, we would. He'd put on his mic. All right, so our new segment, like we did last week, well, 2 weeks ago, because we missed a week, was Geek Culture. We're going to take that away, Kevin Cavett.
All right. Well, Geek Culture this week, we got quite a busy week.
Yeah.
First thing that everyone's buzzing about is we got another Civil War trailer. Hell yeah. Finally got to see Spider-Man in it.
Coolest one yet.
Oh, yeah.
By far.
And there's just so much good stuff to be looking out for. I mean, earlier this week, we also heard Luke Cage is premiering September 30th on Netflix. If you haven't seen Jessica Jones, it's phenomenal.
Go watch it, for
Luke
sure.
Cage makes his appearance in it, and we've all watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I enjoyed Luke Cage the whole time he was on the screen.
Yeah.
It was fun to see him.
Yeah, every time he's on screen, you can't help but pay attention.
I still can't wait for Daredevil to show up somewhere in there. You know, in Jessica Jones, maybe he'll show up in Luke Cage.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that would be really cool because they do have to connect him into the fold eventually for the Defenders. Which, speaking of Daredevil, coming up Friday is season 2 of Daredevil, which we're going to get to see the Punisher and Elektra in this season.
Dude, they casted Punisher so perfectly.
I agree. Totally.
I can't wait to see this guy's portrayal of him.
Yeah. They can only do better with either Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock?
Yeah, The Rock. Or...
Disagree.
What? You disagree with Dwayne Johnson?
I love Dwayne Johnson, but for the Punisher, that's a little questionable.
The Punisher's not like a 300-pound Samoan.
That's a good point.
That's true. He is about an average male.
Attitude, 100% with you.
For sure.
100%.
Could he act it? Sure, but he's already Black Adam in DC. so
Oh, he's Black Adam. All right, then we can't do that.
yeah.
Sure.
Well done, Dwayne Johnson, Black Adam. Or I was gonna say Vin Diesel.
I could see that work.
That one could actually possibly
Still
work.
not there with you.
No,
The Last Witch Hunter was good. That movie.
I have not seen that yet.
What I'm
really
what I'm
cool.
getting at mostly is that they cast it so perfectly. I can't even think of somebody was like
Yeah.
Right.
maybe bring back Austin 316, Stone Cold. I mean,
Right.
you can get a bunch of people, but nobody's gonna match up to what's his name? I forgot his name. I just call him Shane.
Yeah,
John
everyone calls him.
Benthal. I
John
think.
Benthal. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Good call. Good name drop.
And if you've seen I believe it was in the trailer, or they showed a picture of it, has that iconic Garth Ennis storyline where Daredevil's chained up on the roof with Punisher sitting up there with him.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Which they need to keep that.
Yeah.
You're just one bad day away from becoming me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a huge moment in comics.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy impressive. That Marvel Knights, like that run is just epic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, speaking of Garth Ennis too, they also are doing the Preacher comic, which we saw the trailer a long time ago.
Yeah.
They're gonna do the Preacher show. They need to stick with Garth Ennis' stuff.
Yeah.
They can't stray from that too much either. I mean,
And when they do it, I kind of think that they need to take it to that level when they do it.
yeah,
Meaning, unfortunately, it's not going to work on a basic cable,
no,
station.
and that's why they need to get off of AMC. That's why they could only do certain things in Walking Dead too.
Certain things, they actually did pulled off Walking Dead pretty well, considering all the brutality of that show and what they've done with it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, you're taking it to another level with Preacher. You got a guy walking around with, like, an ass for a face,
Yeah.
that blows his own face off because of Kurt Cobain. And it's just... It's another level, and I think that it belongs on a grittier network.
Yes.
And I honestly, like, I've seen the trailer for it, and like I said before on previous podcasts, I don't like knocking anything before I see it. It's just something that I view within the context of the commercials. It didn't suck me in like the book did. So, that being said, maybe the next commercial will, but that's how I feel from this point forward.
Yeah, the joke's been made, too, that it's such a staple part of it that almost a supporting character, if you will, the F word. Oh, they're not going to be able to have it. You know,
I can fully agree with that.
I'm gonna try to reserve my opinion of it because Jesse Custer is my all-time favorite comic book character. So it's kind of
got to give it a chance, right?
Definitely, sure. I agree.
Well, well, just standing in the store, sometimes people are like, I can't. They're gonna ruin it. They're gonna ruin it. They're gonna ruin it. That's all I keep hearing.
I like the
And
actor
I'm
playing him, so I got high hopes.
Yeah, but yeah, so yay, preacher.
Yeah.
Back to Civil War. I want to make mention of something I read this week. Hulk and Thor. We're like, well, everybody hears about Hulk and Thor, but why?
I mean, I imagine in the movie they're going to explain.
Well,
I mean, there's like literally the only two characters that are not in it.
Yeah, and they're saying they're going to be on Ragnarok.
Well, yeah, didn't Hulk, last time we saw him, he was flying away in the plane by himself at the end of Age of Ultron. And Thor, I think, went back home. So they're probably both off-world at this point.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were hinting towards World War Hulk.
Yeah, well, they had put in Ragnarok as like the thing I read. I mean, it was on Facebook, so how credible can it be? But it was on the comic book. What do you call it? Comic book
resources.
I think so. It was one of those. But either way, I was hoping to see a Hulk Thor make a side in here somewhere.
Yeah, because Thor, or at least his clone, was a big part of that Civil War book, the original.
Yeah,
because he killed an influential character when they tried to clone Thor.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to add that storyline aspect of it. If they are trying to do a World War Hulk setup with him, too, I don't know how you guys feel, but it would have been better if, like the World War Hulk book, he's exiled by the other Avengers instead of self-exile. If that's the route they go, it has less impact, in my opinion.
I don't think that's the route they're going to go because they're leading into Infinity.
Yeah, well, they're leading to Infinity, and they're portraying a Bruce Banner that is very overly like
melancholy.
Yeah, like almost like he causes a lot of suffering on himself. He doesn't bring it on anybody else, and I think it's an exaggeration, yes, but that created the self-exile that we saw in Age of Ultron.
I think it's a nice. It's kind of an amalgam between the old '80s show and the comic book character.
Yeah.
So everyone in the audience can kind of get involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That self-inflicted, walking down the road, woe is me.
The piano
in the background. I mean, the viewers got to get on board somehow if they don't read comics. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think. It's like an amalgam of the two.
Yeah, I feel like him and Old Man Logan should be trotting off in like horses like,
together
to like House of the Rising Sun, and be like,
just like pop up behind like 80s like. Hulk can just stick them. Shut up with the music.
Quit quitting on life, Bruce. But yeah, there's a lot going on in geek culture right now, and we just kind of tippy-toed around a lot of things.
The one thing I'm going to bring up on Civil War, when you see Spider-Man hit the top of that car with the shield, and you see his eyes squint.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first time we've seen Spider-Man do that in any movie. And that's a large part of Peter.
Yeah.
Like, to have the mask like move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not like, I don't know,
realistic,
I guess is the word.
But if, like the point you made, if that suit he's wearing in the movie when we see him is some kind of American hero suit that Tony Stark helped design, there could be digital quality to it to allow emotion to be emoted through the eyes.
Yeah. Because off camera, I had mentioned that upon seeing the suit, I liked it, except for you can notice there's like an armband, like black armband, and it outlines his bicep, which I think looks kind of lame. And there's one on his upper calf just below the knee. And I think that, upon like reviewing a little more, just being not trying to be not picky about it because it's finally Spider-Man. It's so cool. Is I think it has something to do with like a nanotech fiber type thing because like Jim was saying, I mentioned before off camera, Tony Stark at this point is like Underoos, come in, and he's wearing a suit, and like you said, it squints. It shouldn't be able to do that. Is it a tech suit?
That and in the comic version of Civil War, Tony Stark did make Spider-Man a suit.
Yep.
Yeah, the golden red.
I don't know if that's a homage to that.
But it was so extravagant and such a departure from his original suit that I don't think fans would appreciate it going into a new thing.
Not
yeah,
like this.
That's a valid point. You know, coming from a viewer standpoint.
Totally
Absolutely.
agree.
You know, because I mean, if you think about it, if they completely change everything, it's like,
it would be like, who's
how
this?
canon
This
is that? Like, get out of
their
here.
This is not Spider-Man.
This is Spider-Man.
This is Iron Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and everybody would be pissed. Just
they would.
just like when you watch Deadpool. You know, you looked at that suit and you're like, that is Deadpool.
Yep.
Right.
That is a freaking awesome Deadpool suit. And if they would have gone with like they did in Wade Wilson in was that First Class?
Oh god,
It's like
or
that is
Wolverine
not
Origins.
that is not Deadpool even in the slightest. You know. So that pissed a lot of people off, but now you look at the Deadpool now, right?
Bad memories.
Yeah, bad.
But yeah, I mean,
You
going
know,
back to
moment
what
of
we were
silence.
saying, it's actually really cool that you brought that up. So it seems like that is what it is. It's Tony's creation of this suit.
Tony's amazing
You know.
man. He really is.
And early on, I don't know about you guys, but I heard tons of rumors that there's multiple suits in this one for Spidey.
That's what I heard too.
And I think it's a thing that was kind of forgotten. As soon as you see that, it looks a lot like how Alex Ross is doing his covers right now, which
Yeah,
is
totally.
great. So cool. And it looks a lot like the original Steve Ditko design, too. The only thing it's missing is that old webbing he used to have in the armpit.
yeah, right.
But it's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great time to be a geek.
Yeah, right. To be accepted. What was I
We
gonna
are the
say?
future, Danny, not them.
Future Charles. Not them.
First X-Men movie quote. On that note.
I had another thought, but I lost it.
Oh.
Oh well. So, yeah, geek pop culture. That was a good segment on that. Open table discussion. We're gonna start off with this is the start of the image segment. Why we choose Image? Like, what did they mean to us? Why do we stray from the Marvel and DCU? What do we like about them? You know, we're gonna kind of just do an open little discussion on what we feel about Image and miscellaneous publishers in general. So, Cameron, if you want to start off.
All right, yeah. Image to me, it reminds me of being big fan of movies, big fan of film. It reminds me of watching an indie movie. You know, it has a very personal experience when you read these books. The creators get what seems like almost full control of what they're putting out.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you had Marvel and DC, and then all of a sudden, all these guys go off on their own and create Image. And to me, even though I was younger at the time, I wasn't collecting comics, but now that I'm older and I hear how people talk about that era, it reminds me of like what Nirvana and bands like that did back when there was just glam metal.
Yeah.
You know, there was only a thing done one or two ways for a certain amount of time, and then someone came in and revolutionized everything,
You're right. I mean,
personalized it.
Because it seems like in books like Danny, you're going to talk about later, I Hate Fairyland. I mean, you just see Scotty Young really just put all of his creativity and imagery into a book, and he's not held back by, you have to stay canon to this, you have to stay canon to that. It doesn't matter.
Not held back by creativity whatsoever.
Exactly. You know,
Whether it be writing or art or anything.
And it seems like even another thing I like about it is it could be any rating.
Yeah.
You know, you could have things, like
Family friendly, and then other stuff, it's just mature.
Yeah, and
Outright.
you seem to find your own little niche while you're picking out certain miscellaneous publishers.
There is something for everyone somewhere in there.
For sure.
There was these artists that, back in the 90s, you could tell that they felt restricted. They weren't allowed to have their creative input and do their solo characters and edge out what they wanted to do at the time. So they broke off.
Yep.
I don't want to make this kind of crazy comparison, but it was like United States breaking off from England. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It really
Marvel
is.
and
It
DC
really is.
had all the control.
Yeah.
Yep.
The blockbusters, the giants. Well, we're going to show you that you're not as big as you think you are. The creativity and the flow follows the direction of the artist.
It's very analogous. I when you key in on that, I'm like, wait, that makes so much sense because you look at Image specifically. I mean, look, they are a third party. They're they're obviously not as popular as Marvel and DC because it's Marvel and DC. They're like the big head honchos, but they're up there. I mean, they are third party for sure.
Yeah, for me, I enjoyed mainstream books. Obviously, my first comic book I ever bought was an Incredible Hulk book, but I never connected with a creator as much as I did recently when I read at the end of the Fairyland book in the letters column what he had to say about how he felt when he first went into a comic book store and saw all those books. I bought, when I was younger, every single #1 that Image put out when they first put them out. Every single one. I used all the money I had, saved up, got every single one of them. And I tried to follow all of them. I had my favorites, sure. Savage Dragon, Wildcats.
Yes.
I love that Mohawk.
They were phenomenal. Like, Eric Larson, to this day, still works on his own book.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but respect for those people. And they were allowed to create new characters and new licensing material for the mainstream companies they worked for back in the time, but they never owned them.
Yeah.
Anything they created was automatically signed over. They didn't have the creative rights. That was the reason they did what they did. So they wanted to own their own rights to their characters. They started it all together to have their own characters start their own products.
Well, that's another cool thing. I like how you mentioned that because from what I understand, when Image does a book, like so, we keep talking about I Hate Fairyland, so let's continue on that. When Scotty Young puts out his book, he's got his full creativity into it, and based on how many he sells, that's how much money you make. So it's like how hard do you want to work to get this?
Yeah.
Like Marjorie Liu, she's doing an incredible job on Monstrous, and she's putting out these incredible books. Selling tons of copies, she could be making a ton,
Yeah,
or
and if you don't, you fail.
Exactly.
As to where when you're writing for DC or Marvel, say you don't do so good on a storyline. Well, that storyline kind of sucked. They might give you another shot. Say you don't do so good on that. They might give you one more shot. You know, you can't just run things into the ground when it's your own.
Yeah. And
you have to put everything
It kind of seems like Image kind of takes a step back almost, like the actual publishing company itself. I mean, they probably have their editors. They probably do their thing. But it seems like they almost take a step back.
Well, it gives the creator, it puts the fate in their own hands, And it's like these guys were saying. I did the same thing, when in the 90s. One thing that definitely Image did was all these new readers that wanted to come in, because there were so many books flying off the shelf in the 90s, that they didn't even know where to begin. Spider-Man 300 and something.
Yeah,
X-Men 200 and something.
Oh, but there's a Wildcats.
Jeez, I mean, it's going to take me 30 years to collect all these comics.
Yeah, I mean, I bought books individually because the cover blew me away. Or like the one where Venom is holding Spider-Man's skull with the tattered remnants of his costume on it, and you just see that image. I bought it for that reason, and then I really started liking it, so I read about 5 or 6 issues, but then I always went back to those books for me that gave me the start and led me on this path that was new for everyone that was on it.
Absolutely.
And I think they might have been broken away to Marvel and DC, how they're doing their relaunches every now and then. It's like, oh, well, I can't sell number 452. Why not relaunch into a #1? Yeah. Oh, now people see #1s on the shelf. Boom. Now you can start with new stories.
As to where, as you just said, with Marvel and DC, you see a #1 on the shelf. Probably 9 times out of 10, it's a relaunch
or an annual.
When you see a Image #1 book, that's a whole new thing, man.
Yeah,
it's probably a brand new book you've never heard of before.
And a totally creative idea. I mean, I just read what's that book? Secret Identities, which is an Image, almost like an Avengers group. They have very similar things, but they take it off in a totally different twist, where it's like, they're all Avengers in a sense. They're all superheroes. Iron Man's taken on the best way for me to explain this is they all have their secret identities. Nobody knows who each other are.
Okay.
So instead of them being just like a superhero group, they all have their secret identities and
amongst each other.
But they're all, some of them are villains, some of them are not.
Oh, that's cool.
Some of them
so they're
are good
working
people,
together and they don't really know.
But they don't really realize it, who you're dealing with until it was pretty cool. It seemed
Sounds like a lot of inner drama.
It is.
They change,
and I love it though.
They change what's considered, classic concepts and things like that. When you say Savage Dragon, I was just trying to collect some of those, and in the early run, I think the character's name is Bedrock, shows up, and he starts fighting Savage Dragon. They're leveling a couple blocks, and he's just like, "Why are you fighting me? Are you a villain or what? Because I'm not playing around here anymore." And he's like, "No, dude, I want to recruit you for our team." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, our superhero team. They do this in Marvel all the time." Like, and he's like, "You're killing people. What are you doing?" You know,
Bad Rock was from Youngblood, which was Rob Liefeld's book.
Okay. Yeah.
He wanted to recruit him for Youngblood.
Yeah,
and
so
then he
funny.
crossed over into their book because their universe was connected.
Which it's so in like an
I want to say
Invincible.
something about Liefeld right now. I shouldn't do it, but I want to.
I can see it.
It was like, because he couldn't make his own character to pull over. He had to see
I tried to recruit him. That's hilarious.
That's like the third one.
I know. I didn't want to go that route, but I just felt like I had to just kind of shove it in there because we did it on the Deadpool special. Like, Liefeld, way to go.
That guy.
I really enjoy it. I might be an oddball out, but I have no hatred for Liefeld, and I enjoy his passion for his work. But
He was, you know what? He was creative back in the day in the '90s, and he had his time. But it's, I recently seen him do some work, and it's actually caught up a little bit. So it was actually, more of a nostalgic to see his work again.
Yeah.
But if you break down, and if you actually look with your eyes at an X-Force #1, at the comic
it
page.
hurts your eyes.
At the comic page. I'm serious. Take the time to look at it. The legs don't exist. There's hatch marks. It's going crazy.
Okay, enough about Liefeld. Liefeld, you did great work. Let me retract all my statements right there. And,
He's not even coming up to C2E2 this year.
I thought he was. Oh.
But the other creator of
Liefeld, I don't
Deadpool
retract
is
those statements.
Fabian, how do you pronounce his last name?
Nasiza?
Yeah, he's going to be there. The
He
other
will be
creator
there.
of
He will
Deadpool.
be there.
But yeah, another thing, just like the unconventional topics of Image is like Invincible. The secret identity thing.
yeah.
How many people do we try to talk to? You hear, I can't get into the superhero thing because of this cliche object or this cliche thing here.
Yeah.
They address that stuff. Like in Invincible, when his high school is getting attacked, and he's like, "All right, friends, I'll be right back." And you see him fight the monster in costume, and then he comes back out of costume, and his friend's like, "So why didn't you tell me you were invincible?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You mean the guy that flew by who looked just like you in a colorful outfit? I didn't know that."
Oh, but Clark Kent looks nothing like Superman. So when he's all over,
Hold on, Blake, take your glasses off.
What?
Where did he go?
sorry guys.
Our host has abandoned us.
One subject.
What have you done with Blake? There he is.
Oh wait, sorry guys. I'm back. I'm Blake.
Blake
One
Manta.
subject I really like is the subject of artists in Image books.
Big time.
And you sometimes get magic when you get to see some of these early artistic people get into these books. A perfect example for me was Jeffrey Scott Campbell. When his first books of Gen 13 came out, his characters looked a little rubber bandy, but you could see the beauty hiding in there. You could see the artistry. And as he evolved, and when he finished his miniseries and started the ongoing series, it was night and day, the quality of art. And he had come into his own skin. And it kind of gives me a little bit of goosebumps here.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah, thinking about it, because that is the magic that I always loved the most about Image books. And
sure.
it is my favorite.
I absolutely agree. I ran in that run too. I was a total huge Team 7 Deathblow fan, and when it evolved into Gen 13, his women were extraordinary. I'd never seen anything like that on a comic page before. Yeah. I would look at my comics for hours in the bedroom. The
thing is, I never noticed
I'm going to shake your hand after this.
I never noticed it until now. That grunge to me now
sticky.
looks like a young Jack Black.
Yeah.
I never noticed it at the time, but nowadays I think he was like a young Jack Black. That's who he kind of looks like now.
A little bit. He was cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, his face. I could see it.
Yeah, I guess cuts, that's a little different.
But on your topic though, when you were talking about how artistry it just evolves over time, look at a lot of these artists that start in Image. and then they grow into, like you're saying, grow into their skin, and then they move on to Marvel, they move on to DC.
Oh,
I mean,
Campbell he just has to do covers now.
Yeah,
he does variant covers, and then look, they're worth $200, $300.
Didn't he do the art for the Back to the Future book you're collecting?
The covers, I think.
I think the covers.
Yeah, he also does a cover I'm looking to get at Con. It's one Mary Jane for Amazing Spider-Man 601. Amazing cover.
Oh,
I know we send a lot of
It's like a
praise.
$40-$50 book, but I want it.
that early 600 run, it's like 601, 602, 606, 607. Like, man, those are phenomenal.
what were you saying, Jim?
Oh, no.
Sorry, man.
I know there's a lot of praise for Scotty Young, but, like, again, that's another subject. Like, many years ago at Wizard World in Chicago, I met Scotty Young for the first time when he was just doing tables at Artist Alley and he hadn't been signed to anyone yet. And I got original artwork from him back then.
Nice.
Because I was super impressed with his stuff. And I still have it to this day. And it means a lot to me now that he is where he is.
Yeah.
Well, but just look at it. I mean, he's writing he's writing I Hate Fairyland, Rocket and Groot. He's doing variant covers for almost every Marvel book out right now.
He's got 139 variant covers now. Total.
That's awesome.
That's just the Marvel babies, not including everything else.
And I have probably a stack like that high of the ones I actually liked.
Yeah.
So you could literally make it rain with Scotty Young covers.
You could.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that
I'm gonna hunt these down. My dollar bills for you, Danny.
What's that one that I think either you or Darren had with Cable on the cover? It's not his classic cartoony style. It's really detailed, and it just looks amazing.
Oh yeah, he's
I don't remember what X series that was from.
Yeah, he's done multiple books. He did a Fantastic Four run for a while, where it's just Human Torch and Thing. I actually love his comic art.
Yeah.
Like when he draws
His actual comic art, not his cartoony stuff.
Like I think it's a little cartoony, but his comic cartoony amalgam, it's awesome. It works for me.
Nice.
So
yeah. So that's pretty much what I guess we can kind of drive that out with. That's what Images is, or miscellaneous publishers are to us. Like.
That's what Image is all about.
It gives birth to these artists that you wouldn't normally really give a chance right away.
Well, think of I consider it. I love Image. Don't get me wrong, but I consider it almost like the minor leagues to, driving up to Marvel and DC. It seems like they take in a lot of publishers. A lot of creative artists and writers that want to try out books. Instead of going to 451 or you can go to any of these other press companies. Seems like they take on quite a bit.
What I notice is an artist will go into Image, they'll work on a book, they'll pay their dues, and finally get to the golden land that is Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And then they'll do that for 5-10 years.
And guess what they'll still do?
Burn out. They'll burn out on it and then go back to Image to do their original
Exactly.
shit.
And that's what that's the exact point I was just going to make, is that a lot of them go into the Marvel and DCU and they're like, but then they still write their books in Image, or afterward they'll come back to it when they're,
Yeah, it's almost like how you look at how a musician tours. They play their shows, and they tour. They do the same stuff. You start your own original thing, and then you go over to DC or Marvel, and you're just touring. You're just doing art for them for a while, and then after that, it's like, I got the spark again. I'm going to go create something.
Dave Grohl can solo for a while. Easy, Foo Fighters.
So
on that note,
it's just a different feel and heart when you pick up an Image book than the other two.
It is.
It's not mainstream. It's cool before cool.
I'm so indie.
I know, right?
Anyway, so James, you're the special guest. It's it's the Image special, right? We're talking about Image and miscellaneous publishers.
For sure.
Which one's one of your tops right now? Maybe give us a little something about it.
I picked for my book to cover was Descender. It is phenomenal. First and foremost, I will just simply say, without spoiling anything, it is phenomenal. Jeff Lemire, he's a great writer. He's cut his teeth on a lot of stuff, and that is a pun, because he did Sweet Tooth for Vertigo.
I just got that.
But he's worked on a lot of books. Justice League Dark.
Yep.
There's a lot to cover
he's
there.
Been around,
he's been around, and he's currently writing Extraordinary X-Men, Old Man
book.
Loken,
Amazing book.
and Uncanny X-Men, as far as I'm concerned.
Uncanny
No,
is Cullen Bunn.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Okay,
Cullen Bunn.
okay, he's not doing that one. Okay, so he's doing the other two.
Well, no, I'll leave it to Cullen Bunn. I was gonna say I wish, but no, Cullen Bunn.
And then going back to artists, the thing that I'm really, really into with books, because of my love of cartooning, is Dustin Nguyen.
Yep.
Nguyen is the proper pronunciation. I had to look that one up for his name.
I was gonna say Nguyen, but I'm like, that's not right.
That was my first
Oh
impression too.
Oh, gee.
That was my first impression too. It was one of those. Acceptable is Nguyen
Nguyen.
and Nguyen.
All right.
Either one.
Just like
it's
that
kind
dude
of like
with the
they
sick ass
play
art.
off.
But his work is good though.
It's phenomenal, and there's a really, really interesting article. We'll put the link up to it
For sure.
that I found about his. He was interviewed for his work on this book, Descender, and he talks about doing all the art for it rather than just when he worked on like Batman, Superman. Is that the proper order? Superman, Batman, Superman.
It's Batman,
Superman.
You're good.
I think
He also did.
those two guys.
He also did
Those
Little
two
Gotham.
guys that are
Which was a really, really fun cartoony styled book. But he actually got his start in a Wildstorm book, Gen Active. That was his
Nice.
first work.
I didn't know that.
So he's kind of gone full circle.
Yeah.
He's very passionate about his work on Descender because, again, he's doing all the art for it. He says, as it sounds, it's the biggest workload that he's had artistically, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
So if you
So
were to
that's
give a
why-
synopsis, what's the book about?
Yeah.
All right. Well, the hero of this story is pretty much Tim 21. He is a robot child. He is a companion droid that is given to families that need somebody to watch over their child when they're not there. But he is the most advanced robot in pretty much the history of the known universe, which is covered in this story by 9 core planets at the beginning of the plot. The beginning of the plot starts with our doctor, the guy who fundamentally created the most advanced robots in the universe, waking up, being told there's an alert. He comes outside, and there's a celestial-sized robot outside of every single planet of the 9 main planets, the core worlds, and they nuke every single one of them simultaneously.
Kind of like Independence Day, a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
So this guy has to go into seclusion after that. The book story actually takes place 10 years after that happens.
So not to cut you off, but essentially, as probably a horrible comparison, but since there's no planets left, right? They destroyed all the planets?
They destroyed most of the life on
Oh, okay. I figured there'd be like space stations left and no planets or something.
They have called these
Water
things
world.
harvesters. They are
Okay.
referred to as harvesters because they think that they were harvesting the life from these planets to maybe use the planets for filling them with robots.
Like
Who knows?
Galactus in a way.
Yeah, they are just killing them all, and they call them harvesters. It has created huge hatred for robot kind. This doctor has pretty much become a recluse afterwards. Everyone hates him.
So this little boy robot, is there more than one or is it unique?
There are more than one, but you only see one for a very long time. For example, the first storyline is 10 Stars. It covers 6 issues. Starts out with the boy waking up on his mining colony he was assigned to.
Yeah.
He sends out a distress signal to the universe because he has no idea the state of the universe. There are these things called scrappers, which I would compare to reavers from Serenity. They're pretty much robot hunters that like prey on robots.
For money or for prestige?
Every reason for hatred,
Yeah.
political reasons. When they bring them to the homeworld of Ganesh, which are the pure hatred for robots.
Ganesh.
Yeah, they're awful. They put robots in fighting pits to cull them.
Oh, wow.
So this boy is on the planet. The end of the first issue pretty much has scrappers showing up there.
Oh yeah,
You know,
'cause you
know
see
what
them
it
all
kind
flying
of
in.
reminds me of a little bit? You know that movie AI?
It's a little comparable to that, to the boy,
Okay.
for sure.
Like, yeah.
He's a very emotional character. He's probably the most emotional robot I have seen in a comic book ever.
I would agree to that because every time something happens, he's kind of like,
but like not in a
almost like-
weak way to where he feels like compromising.
Only in the most human way that we would want a robot to truly be, to not be afraid of them.
That's
if
cool.
R2 could talk,
Yeah. He was as lovable as R2, I'd say.
Because R2's pretty lovable, but R2 only beeps.
It's like almost innocent in nature.
He even has a robot dog named Bandit that
That's
pretty
awesome.
much shows emojis on its face instead of like, but they're all sideways like how you type them.
That's hilarious.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So they're wandering around. In the meantime, even in the very first issue, that signal that went out, we are introduced to Captain Telsa, who is this bold, red-haired alien woman that is really impressive looking. Every page she's in, she kind of pops in the page she's in. Mm-hmm. She shows up to recruit the doctor to go and retrieve this boy. He's like, why? He's just a Tim series robot. He's nothing special. She tells him something that is fundamentally important to the first storyline of Tin Stars, and that is that we have tracked and covered the mind waves of those harvester robots, and they match the Tim series.
So
we don't know why.
So they're extremely advanced.
Yeah, but he's got a connection to the things that destroyed the world.
Yeah.
And the doctor's just like, okay, I guess I'll go with you. But he doesn't explain anything
Yeah.
yet. But he does know why. That
Wow.
comes up much later.
That's pretty intense because I only read up to like issue 4, and I just see the swarm coming in. I'm like, oh, I need to read more.
So
I
It
absolutely
seems
need it.
intriguing. It seems it's like it's a little dense, but very interesting.
Yeah.
it never overdoes anything. Like I said, 9 core worlds, there's so much there. But they don't introduce them to you like issue after issue or 2 in an issue. It's like issues apart.
Yeah.
And they only give you bits and pieces of it to make you like, I'm interested in that world, or that world I'm not interested in. And you can kind of pick and choose as you go.
I like the dynamic as it sounds of this Tim character being linked to the things that destroyed all those planets, and the fact that they did it in almost an emotionless manner.
Yeah.
And from what he sounds like, he's full of emotion.
Yeah. Well,
Very
wait.
interesting dynamic.
That could mean that the scrappers could be emotional.
The Scrappers?
Aren't those the ones with the wavelengths?
No, the Scrappers
oh.
are living people and living beings that are
I'm
hunting
screwing
robots
this
to
up.
extinction.
Yeah.
No, they are hunting these AIs for their processors. They're hunting them to destroy them and cull them. They hate them. Wow. And by the second issue, you're introduced to Driller, who is another main character in the book, and he's basically a mining robot that starts protecting the Tim. He becomes his guardian.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, great stuff. Another thing that happens that's much different than a lot of books that you might read is that every single time somebody gets shot by something, they pretty much die.
Yeah.
All the weapons are lethal to a high degree. Even the Tim robot in his hand opens up and shoots a sphere that blows a hole through the captain of the Scrappers.
Oh,
But then he can't shoot it, and he says, I have to recharge, and he runs away. So,
Does what's the dog's name again?
Bandit.
Does Bandit have any cool like
He just
powers
pretty
yet?
much arf, 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 jumps around and just kind of follows.
with smiley faces.
Or
poop
angry or
emoji.
scared faces.
Yeah.
The
Or
poop
sad
emoji.
faces.
That's
with
awesome.
tears.
I like Bandit a lot.
That
That's
sounds
awesome.
really cool.
Speaking of which, this has already been picked up for a movie. Sony Pictures
way.
has bought the rights to this, and they have a director and a writer already for it. So
That's awesome.
It's coming out.
Wow.
Sweet.
Probably in a couple years.
Like it's already on IMDb, ready to go, or
It's got a director and a writer.
Wow.
So that's a pretty far step into, and they
Yeah.
bought it. So
I saw multiple articles last year saying it was one of the best stories to come out of 2015 of any of the 3 brands.
it is
it was
by
great.
far my favorite science fiction comic I've ever read.
Wow. Ever read?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't wait to read more of it.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly, and I'm a fan. Like,
Yeah.
Honestly,
Jesus,
I was
give it to me now.
what just came out last week,
I
James?
was covering this book for this, but I really fell in love with the characters and everybody in it. Okay, so after the first 6 issues, it picks up with issue 7 in a very bold and strong way.
Yeah.
Again, a new scrapper shows up, this legendary scrapper he only takes the farthest distant galaxy jobs, and he just slays robots, like mercilessly.
So he's the Boba Fett of
Scrapper.
The main
Scrappers.
badass bad guy.
When he
sounds
discovers this story about Tim 21, he immediately is like, that's my next job. That's what I'm going to do.
Ooh.
And all the scrapper guys are like, no, this has already been taken by multiple people, and now it's a red ticket item because you've got the Universal Galactic Council, the UGC, going after him. You've got the Ganishans going after him, or Nishans.
Yeah.
And everybody's going after him. He's like, I don't care, I'm going after him. So he proceeds in the next bunch of issues to go and backtrack to all those places we've already seen the main characters.
tracking him.
Yeah,
Right.
goes first back to the mining planet. He actually finds a survivor among the scrappers that tried to take the Tim robot back then.
Oh, wow.
His name's Blugger. He's this big, weird alien with a giant mouth.
Yeah.
And he's really kind of jovial, and this scrapper has no sense of humor. So it's really a fun dynamic between them right away. He wants to name his ship. He's like, what do you mean you never named your ship? You got to name your ship. He's just like, it's so-and-so star class something. He's like, that's boring. We got to come up with a name for it. And that's like a dialogue for several panels. Like,
Wow.
But this guy seems to be like the primary antagonist.
yeah, he starts hunting him down, but you discover in the very next issue, issue 8, who he actually is and why he's tracking this robot. I cannot tell you.
Yes.
Because
Keep it silent.
it will ruin the story,
Yeah.
and it really changes the entire gear of the story into like one of that you're just immediately in love with the Scrapper character now. Like, he sounds like a great character.
That's awesome.
Whoa.
That
So
is
sympathetic villain? Or sympathetic
Without
anti-hero,
spoiling anything,
maybe?
you come to find that it's not as simple as calling him a villain or a hero at that point.
Anti-hero?
I gotcha.
He has a personal interest in Tim 21.
Okay.
So,
It's that lawful neutral gray area.
but I mean, he ends up going through many different cycles. He visits many of the other core worlds that have been affected, and finally, by the end of it, he finds his way to the first planet that Earth colonists went to of the 9.
Interesting.
And that planet has been the most devastated. And there's only cyborgs that live on it, half robots, half humans. And one of them is his ex-wife.
Spoiler alert.
That's pretty crazy.
No, he straight up says that before he even goes there. So,
It sounds crazy. It sounds very enthralling, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
And obviously another big part of the story is in the second part, it's called Machine Moon, the second storyline, the next 5 issues. I thought it was going to be 6. It ended up being 5 up to 11, which just came out this past week.
Nice.
But Tim 21 meets Tim 22 in issue 7. And Tim 22 is like him, but he has been cultivated for war.
And we should stop that right there. Because now you're getting me even more intrigued, and
That's a lot of cliffhanger.
yeah,
Yeah.
leave it right there because
Was that at the 11th issue?
that was the
He's-
7th. He said.
7 through 11, it's Tim 21 and Tim 22
Just together?
together.
Cool, yeah.
on
I
the
would just,
Machine
I
Moon.
would just love to see that Boba Fett scrapper. What's his name again?
The Boba Fett scrapper. I can't give you his name
Oh,
because that's
yeah,
a
you can't-
spoiler.
Yeah, don't
Oh,
do
wow.
that.
Yeah,
He's-
I would
that's-
love to
that
see
is a spoiler.
21, 22, and Boba Fett scrapper. That would be just. That would just be an intense battle, I think.
He's
so
pretty
when
great.
Tim 21 finds his Tim 22, is it just the two of them when he discovers him?
No, Tim 22 is with another robot that he calls Father, who is the leader of the Hardwire, the robot resistance against people trying to destroy robots.
Wow.
This is awesome.
That sounds
This is
really
awesome.
great.
I have 1 through 11 sitting on my desk.
Me
I
too.
need to read it.
I bought
That's
every
the question.
issue because the art is phenomenal. I was like, these covers are blowing me away, and I flipped through them, but I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, my plan is to get, after I borrowed them
You
from
haven't
you,
even read them yet.
I know.
I get
have
borrowed
them
them
all
for
for
this.
this.
I hope they'll be available. Hopefully not too
Expensive.
Too expensive, yeah, but I want to get them all.
Wow.
I do have the first one because I remember I bought
What
that
number
one
is
for
it on now?
11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
All
not
right,
far
so
in.
not too far for someone to jump on board.
Almost
I mean,
a
you
year.
can get the first 6
Almost
for
a year,
$10
right?
from Image. They put all their first trades that way.
Okay.
So then, if you got it that way, and then all their other books are what, $2.99?
Yeah, they're cheap. That's
Yeah.
that's another
That's
reason I
like
love
another
Image.
great
Come on,
thing
yo.
about Image.
You get. I say this every time I ring a customer up with Image books. That's $2.99. It's like, hey, you're getting the best deal for $3.
You
Yeah.
are. You really
because
are.
you're getting great books, no ads. I might add in
Yeah.
99% of the
And
books.
I'm going to say this, a more premium paper quality.
oh yes.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but I am
Marvel and
totally
DC.
bringing that up.
Marvel and DC, fix your paper quality because
They need
all
to.
these miscellaneous publishers have you smoked.
Marvel's the worst.
Not to mention, well created.
Hold on. Let me read a Marvel book and let me just ink my hand because that's exactly what happens
I've left
every time.
fingerprints on the covers of my books,
Yeah.
and I've been collecting for 28 years.
Yeah.
I don't leave nothing on my
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
So,
well, in the
it
last
ain't
5
me.
years, yes.
Yeah,
It
all
ain't
the,
me.
I
all
swear
the
they
heart.
changed
This is another reason too about that I'm such a huge Image lover. All the heart is in the characters when it comes to like Spider-Man, Captain America, Hulk. The heart's there.
Yeah.
The creator's just coming to something that's already got love and heart, and everyone loves it, and that they're a fan.
Yeah.
Creators have to put all the heart into these projects.
They have to create a character.
This is something
Develop
they have to
it, yeah.
sell to you with their emotions.
Yeah.
So it is more emotional on some level.
Yeah.
Because there's no source material to pull from to create more of it.
Yep.
That is a really good point.
On that point, I say we start talking about I Hate Fairyland with Gertrude. I mean, I think Scotty Young put his whole heart into Gertrude.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And
I
Happy.
mean,
I love Happy.
good Lord. I mean, if you're a regular follower of this podcast, you've heard this comic mentioned at least a dozen or more times.
At least.
already.
Or at least the name
Three of
Scotty
us.
Young. You know?
It's because it deserves it. Not because Young is such a really cool, creative cartoonist. And I'll say it, he's a cartoonist.
He is.
His mind, because he read so many years of Mad Magazine, and if you pick up the first issue, in the back of that issue, it will give you an awesome rundown of how he became to be, kind of who he is up until now as an artist and a creative writer.
From himself, he wrote that.
Yeah,
and it
from
was
himself.
it was an incredible, like, what do they call those letters at the
Yeah.
end? And it was
Letter
like a
to fans.
4-page letter. I
Yeah,
read the
it
whole
was
thing. I was
great.
so enthralled in like how he came to be in comics. It was
But if you don't know who Scotty Young is by now, he started with I believe he started with the Oz series. I don't remember anything before that. But Oz, Return to Oz.
I think he did a small run on Human Torch.
Yeah, but that was after
Oh,
that.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know his history too much.
But it was indie book, and I'm not even sure who it's published by. I have one hardcover of it.
Yeah.
I want to get them all, but you can only get so much. Returning to the book, he's a recognized artist through Marvel. He does lots of variant covers. He's a very notable artist in Marvel. He finally broke away, and he's starting to do his own book with I Hate Fairyland. And what the synopsis of this book basically is you take the synopsis of Alice in Wonderland and you flip it on its ass.
Yeah.
Because that really
And then you smash it with an axe.
Smash it with a hammer.
And then you
An
see blood
oversized
sport
cartoon
everywhere.
hammer.
and you shoot a bazooka at the sun.
Yeah.
And from that, the hole that you're creating from the bazooka turns out to be rainbows and unicorns, just shooting everywhere.
Basically, you're in the world of Fairyland,
Yeah,
where everything is wonderful and happy all the time.
not Gertrude.
And you're following the story of the main character, who is Gertrude. And she entered Fairyland much like Alice Pleasance did in Wonderland at an early age.
Yep.
And of 8 years old in the book. And she was given a guide by the name of Larry, and she was given a map by the Queen, and basically told her, go on your adventure, you go, and find the golden key, and when you get to the golden key, you'll be able to go home, but have fun in the magical, wonderful fairyland that we, and on your way. She's been given this map, and then all of a sudden, you turn the page and it says 30 years later. Gertrude is still in an 8-year-old's body, an 8-year-old little girl's body, but she's 38 years old.
Yes.
27 years later, she's 38 years old now. And she's done with it. She's had it. She's had enough of it.
Yeah.
She's tired of the cutesy little animals. She's tired of all the cute speak, all the songs, all the wonderful pleasance that Fairyland has anything to offer. She's done. She's a 38-year-old woman. And it's basically, the story picks up is she's in like a pirate ship blimp, and she's floating across Fairyland, and she's on her way to try to find the key. The sun peeks in, is like, hey, Gertrude, how are you? How are you doing today? And she literally, Scotty Young does something cool in this book, instead of swearing, you don't swear in Fairyland. You say like mother fluffing. You say cute things in place of like swear words.
Yeah.
Not for lack of her trying.
Yeah. So
She's so ornery.
She's constantly swearing at these things, and everything is inanimate. Everything is anthropomorphic.
Yes,
The mushrooms, the
Yeah.
trees.
The sunflower that got bashed
Even her
in.
conscience.
Yeah, even her conscience, Larry. So the son's like, "How are you doing, Gertrude? What's your day going?" And he's like, "Get out of my face. I've had it with you. I don't even want to stop. I don't like you. Get out of my face right now." And he keeps going on, and she's like, "Look, I'm warning you. I'm gonna shoot you in the face with this missile launcher if you don't get out of my face." And he's like, "Don't talk to me like that." And she shoots him in the face with a missile launcher. The next scene, you see the sun orbiting towards the Earth with a skull on bloody fire and crashes into the Earth.
I want to pause you right there. All right. So you notice that Cameron and I were laughing the entire time. This is only because we've read the book both, and
Big fan.
James as well, and we are picturing this as Danny's talking about it. That is to a T.
Yeah.
You're describing this so perfectly that you're making us re-laugh what we laughed when we read it and
Reliving
laughed
it.
after
The
that.
thing is that it's an awesome start of a book.
Yeah.
It pulls and sucks you in so fast.
Yeah.
That you can't help but turn the next page and see what ridiculous stuff is going to happen.
And
next.
you have no idea what's going to happen next. That's
She's
the greatest
so
part of the
tough.
book.
Yeah, like you're saying, you see something like a giant ogre is like, "Hey, little girl," and you're like, "Great, she's finally gonna get her ass
Yeah.
kicked." Next thing you see, he's got a huge hole in his chest. He's dead, and she's
And then
like,
you see her.
"All
on the
right,
opposite
let's
side,
go."
and it's like,
Yeah,
that is until Happy comes in.
yeah.
So to quickly summarize, the end of the first issue is you come across the Queen, and she has an undeniable hatred of Gertrude
You can definitely see it.
for the length of period of time that she's allowed herself to be in Fairyland.
Yeah.
She never expected a little girl who had a direct map to this key to screw it up for this long.
For 20 or 30 years.
And she's been mollygagging around Fairyland, just destroying things.
And drinking.
And drinking and messing up Fairyland, which everyone in Fairyland complains to the Queen.
And they
So-
can't do anything about it because when they try to kill her, she just wakes up after a long ass time. She can't die because she's a guest.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because she can't. Yeah, she's.
she's
How are you a 30-year guest?
she's
son?
invaluable. She can't really get
Yeah.
messed up at all.
Yeah.
So she's a major hindrance for the Queen.
Oh, for sure.
And at the end of the issue, the Queen is like, "I've kind of had it up to here with Gertrude," and starts to want to hire outside henchmen and mercenaries to take out this little girl. So moving forward a little bit, these mercenaries, I'll let you kind of read through number 2.
Yeah,
but it's
enjoy it.
It's a fun read, and you see like a lot of grotesque splatter and drinking and ridiculousness.
Oh, yeah. When she's drinking, that was hilarious.
What was that one thing? Because the food and drink there is so weird. The one thing that she ate or drank, consumed, it basically reflected her inner out. And since she's been here for 27 years eating fatty foods, she just like
Just
grew
sweet.
up.
It made everything catch up. It was like, this is what you would actually look like if magic wasn't keeping you.
It's just massive
Like grotesque,
She
like,
turned into like a nasty
Akira.
Jabba the Hutt.
It's like Akira.
Pizza the Hut.
yeah, totally.
It's so-
Probably smell the anchovies.
Young, like his creative pencil work, like
Yeah.
it's so dynamic. And I gotta shout out. I think the colorist's name is Bolo.
I thought it was Jean.
Bealeu,
Something
or
like
something
that.
like that.
It's incredible.
It's deserving of a shout out because he's an amazing colorist.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic rainbow of an issue. Yeah. And
Very vibrant.
Five
You can
issues.
see that thing across the
whole
room.
series, yeah, very vibrant. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, to no avail, like, she moves on. So the queen kind of has to come up with an idea. Mm-hmm. And this idea was, if I invite another guest in, and that guest finds the key, then Gertrude won't be a guest anymore.
Yeah, she'll be,
and
she'll be a resident.
And then they can take care of her.
And then she can kill her.
Of Fairyland. And she'll be able to be killed, basically. And that new guest is another little girl, and she goes by the name of Happy.
Happy.
She's so cute, it makes you want to throw up.
Yeah, she's adorably cute with her little teddy bear.
Like, I feel like Gertrude. You see her, and it's like...
Yeah. As cute as Fairyland is, she perfectly belongs.
She out-cutes Fairyland.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah, she does.
I didn't think that would be possible, but she definitely out-cutes Fairyland. Her hippity-hopsy.
And she goes on her way. Well, she ends up meeting Gertrude, and they have a tussle. I'm not going to tell you where that goes.
Such a battle.
Eventually, it gets to the point where it's just a tornado of a story.
Yeah.
And we're on issue 5 now. It's not that far along. Well, within the grasp of collecting this book and catching up to date on it.
Easy.
It's my favorite independent book of the year. I have nothing but high praise about it.
For sure. I 100% agree.
I can't wait to get my issue signed. And
trade paperback comes out in I think 2 weeks.
That's
very nice.
Awesome. Yeah. A great chance.
I own all the individual issues and all the variants with the
Yeah.
the other one's
I Fluff.
Yeah,
I Fluff Fairyland.
Fluff Fairyland.
And I'll still get the trade just because I want it on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Each issue has had a variant
the trade to reread.
that is an expletive variant. Mm-hmm. And you can get I Hate Fairyland, or you can get the Fluff variant. Fairyland.
Full of fluff.
Full of fluff. But it's just an extraordinary book, and it's I don't have enough to say about it. It's all good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
props to Scotty and Jean.
And I think
Jean Bio or whatever.
It's a big thing too that this book has the lowest issue run of all the ones we're talking about. It's 5 issues, but it's so good.
Yeah, and we've all read it.
Worthy, yeah.
That's how good
so
it is.
Worthy.
Yeah, and I think too. I had mentioned before the filming that I feel that the reason it's so good and it is so poignant to cover, even just a 5-issue book, is that most books don't get this much content and information out after 15 issues.
Yeah.
It's so fast paced that there's just so much going on.
Are you talking about Marvel and DC books again?
Because
no. I've read some Marvel books where it's like 10 issues in and I still don't know what's going on.
A filler.
No, I mean I would include even other. I would.
It's almost like wait, I just.
Is this the Frieza saga? Jeez, are we watching Dragon Ball? And God, when's he gonna go side by side?
4-hour fight.
You don't get that with this.
No.
It's like boom, you're right there. You're along this. It's
the pace is just.
And the great part is it's an ongoing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he continues this. Hey, 352 something of crushing fairies in Fairyland.
I don't know about that.
More happies, more cuteness.
That's why I thought it was so cool. At the end of the 5th issue, he had another one of those articles where he addressed that. Originally my idea for the story was a 48-page story, and now that I got to where I originally wrote, the demand for it's been so great and surprising, and he sends out a very warm, heartfelt message like, "Thank you. This is how I feed my family."
Yeah.
This is really great. If I do, like you said, if I do well, I'm going to do well. If not, I'm
exactly.
not. And he said, due to the overwhelming response from it, he's just going to keep the story going.
I love it. I love that when that happens.
I'll pick it all up.
Kirkman, this is the second time he's done it with. You're about to talk about Outcast later, but Kirkman and Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Kirkman has made tons, and that's just from an image book that came out. Doesn't like.
We need a Gertrude
Yes,
pop.
yes, please. If anybody's watching, make a Gertrude and Happy pop.
That would be great.
Oh, and the little bug friend.
The Queen, everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
There needs to be an I Hate Fairyland pop line. Or Dorbs. Dorbs!
I love this book. I want to get a Larry tattoo.
Yeah.
Right? Which Larry, for the people who don't know, he's just this little one's like a cricket or something. He's like,
he
got a
fly,
suit.
yeah, with
He's
a
a suit and he's always smoking.
He just wants to die.
Hates his life.
He's basically her representative of like Jiminy the Cricket.
Yeah. Perfect.
Jiminy Cricket.
He's just kind of just fed up with everything she is,
yeah.
honestly.
I love that book.
So good.
All right. So, Fairyland. That's it. Now I have to talk about one. Now, this book is a book that has two creators that really haven't done too much in the book scene, at least in the comic book scene. You got Chris Dingus and Matthew Roberts. If I've done my history right, which I think I just did, Chris Dingus this is his first and only book that he's ever written, and I'm going to tell you how awesome it is in just a sec.
I think that's, sorry to cut you off, but another cool aspect of Image. Either you get these seasoned vets who are putting their heart back into something, or you get these new guys who break through.
Well, that's what I was just talking about earlier, and what Image means to us is like a guy like me could come along, just a comic book retailer, and hey, I want to write a book, and if I put in something decent and the editors like it, they might pick you up.
Yeah.
And this is what I love about it.
It's like the American dream of comic books.
It is.
Yeah, it really is.
I love it.
It's a great analogy.
But this book is Manifest Destiny. All right, I think they're on like 26 right now. Long ongoing series, and they do an incredible job. Basically, how it starts. All right, it's Lewis and Clark. When they travel west. From the American colonies. We've seen this in the history books. We've seen it, for a long time. But they don't come across your normal stuff. They're coming across stuff that's like bullfrogs, two stories tall. They're coming across mosquitoes that are as big as people. And if they stab you, they pretty much just suck your blood out. Or poison you, depending on, how badly or how
Like
severe it is.
Monstrous like amphibians or
Some are the opposite. Some of them are tiny little creatures that they're very nice, and you wouldn't expect them to be nice because of how they look. They come across Indians that are mostly hostile, but you see that in the history books. They're mostly hostile because these are American colonists coming out and being like, "No, we're going to take your land. This is ours now."
Yeah, someone with clothes and not leathers.
Exactly, and they got their I want to say blunderbusses, with their bayonets and swords. They draw swords. But as they're traveling, like I was saying, they're coming across all this cool stuff that stuff that's unreal to our normal nature. And there's these arches, right? I'm still kind of iffy on what these arches are there for.
They're passing on the water?
No, they're just kind of randomly there. Huh. So
what do you mean,
one
like
of
the
them,
St. Louis Arch,
like an arch on the land,
almost because one of the first ones they come across is coming down the Mississippi, and they see one. They actually get their boat caught on one. All right, so this arch is not sticking out of the water. It's like when the Titanic hit the iceberg.
Are they fault lines?
Possibly. I've read the full thing right now, and they still haven't really.
They just refer to them as arches.
Yeah, the Indians they explain it. They're like, okay, do not go near the arches. Those are evil. Evil. So the first arch they come across, right? They get stuck on it. This is where that giant bullfrog comes from. Starts just eating people, right?
Because you said before off camera they have a crew with them. It's not just Lewis
oh yeah.
and Clark.
Well, as in Lewis and Clark, the normal history story, they had them, they had their scientists, and then they had prisoners, right? You have the prisoners cruising with them because hey, if we need a body, let's just toss out the
That looks
prisoner.
like a trap. You go first.
Yeah. So what happens? They end up killing this big thing, and then the thing grabs the giant bullfrog fish thing, grabs onto their ship and kind of yanks them off it as they're fighting it, and ends up running away at some point. So as they're going through, it's a lot of internal monologue while you're on the ship. There's fights going on because they're prisoners. They fight each other, they kill each other, and then they adventure into the outside forest as they're cruising down the river. The second arch they come across, which this one was intense. I was on the edge of my seat reading this thing. They see this like black thing inside of it, So when the Indian said like those things are evil, when they talked to him, they walked up to it. They're like, okay, little prisoner, climb up there, see if you can lure it out. Yeah, that's a great idea. So they go up there. He goes up there with a gun. He's kind of freaking out. Goes up there. They both fall out of the arch because this one's sticking out way out of the land. You know, they see it off in the distance, and it was just him that fell. They thought they saw both of them. It was just him. You know, so then the demon's still up in there of some kind. It's like a demon sort of thing, and that is really what concludes the last one. I kind of skipped forward way too far, but I love those arches. They come up, and you're stuck on an arch for a good 4 or 5 books.
No, question is, it sounds like they're heavily themed, the arches, right?
They are.
Okay.
Because there was one in the water. I mean, it wasn't even like it's a normal...
So it sort of seems like they have their adventure, and then they have to face like an end guy.
Yeah.
At one of these arches.
Yeah, because they're on they just released their 3rd trade, and it is so grasping. Like, you have to read it because you want to see kind of what crazy monster or thing that they're going to come up against.
And who survives and lives past it.
Exactly. You know, because you got Lewis and Clark who are internally going psycho.
People,
yeah.
Like actual historic. This almost sounds like a Fable Paul Bunyan tall tale version of the Lewis and Clark tale.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
I would
those
say
arches immediately made me think of like markers for ley lines.
Yeah.
Other dimensions.
It
Fault
could very well
lines.
be because they're even saying that this could be like a demon thing. It's not outright explicitly said. You don't, you know, it doesn't die. It, you know, it kills the one
that type
prisoner.
of stuff's so fun in stories because it doesn't have to be explained.
And it's such a thriller. Like you get so grasped onto it. It's, I don't know how to explain it too much.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
But that just kind of shows my internal passion for history books. You know, like Uber. If anyone's read Uber, that one's all about, you know, World War II, Nazi Hitler, you know, Germany kind of stuff. But they have superhumans, right? And the Americans have the superhumans. So when they're all fighting and they have these superhumans, you know, one of them can punch the ground.
On
and
both sides.
Yeah, it is unreal, and the intensity that these history books drive in, and the creators bring in their own history knowledge. It really grasps me, you know, because you're
It's
like
really refreshing to hear because for me, when I hear these literary twists on some of these stories, and I'm kind of like standoffish, like really, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but like that might be a good book.
yeah.
It might be amazing, and I hate to say that I never gave it a chance because it was too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
This is just called Manifest Destiny. It's not like Lewis and Clark save the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was like Witch Slayers or whatever.
But
Yeah,
the
with
movie
that
was.
end the part, like Witch Slayers.
A title.
The thing behind this though is that it's not very supernatural, that this could have potentially actually happened in real life. You know, where
Record.
they're manifesting their destiny almost. You know, like that's what's happening.
That's
You know,
really cool.
if for us it was bison, buffalo, you know, deer, you know, but for them it was giant bullfrogs, huge mosquitoes that ate people, and you know, it's nuts. You know, so and there's a lot of internal drama, like I said, with all the characters. You know, and I'm not describing that too well, but that's kind of something you need to read to feel it yourself.
Well, it really
you know?
sounds interesting. I'll probably check out the first trade at least.
Yeah, you know, it's good stuff.
I can imagine what kind of conversations that sparks within their group. Like, oh yeah, so the giant bullfrog today. How was that? You know?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I read number 4 and there was a giant bullfrog. That was kind of cool. You know, I feel that should go in the history books. like, you know,
no, that was kind of.
I mean, this isn't a book like Fairyland. You know, this is a book that, you know, takes a twist on actual history, and that's what enthralls me so much. You know,
very innovative.
yeah, it's very cool. But again, you know, interesting creators that.
I wonder if they're gonna put in that that little ipso facto recent knowledge that they think that Lewis and Clark were gay.
Oh wow!
If they throw that in, I mean, you never know, because you don't know what they're going to come out with. I mean, it's one of those things where they're only halfway across. I mean, they're not even that far, you know, into the West.
I'm just curious if they
You know?
bring it up. I'm not interested in it. I'm just saying.
Well, that was another thing I want to mention about Uber is that Kyron Gillen, or Guillen, however you pronounce it, he is taking time off right now, obviously to write the books he's writing for Marvel.
Right.
But also just to rebuff on his World War II history, to make this book more
Accurate.
Yeah, but accurate to what the book is doing.
Right.
You know, and I find that so cool. Like
Wow.
I can't express it like I want to right now, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's just it catches me.
Dedication to his thing.
Yeah, for sure. But cool book.
Cool.
I love it.
Sounds good.
I love it. Cam, take it away, man.
All right, so getting over to Outcast. Outcast, written by Robert Kirkman. Many know him as the writer of The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Art is Paul Azaceta. I hope I didn't butcher that name, but his art is amazing for this book. This book is 16 issues long. It follows two main characters, Kyle Barnes and Reverend Anderson. And Kyle has a history with demonic possession. So far, we've covered sci-fi, historical fantasy, and classic fantasy, I'd say, in Fairyland.
I do like our differences here. Like, this inadvertently turned out pretty good in that.
And now we got the supernatural.
Yeah.
Another supernatural book by Robert Kirkman, who, like I said, Walking Dead, the popularity of that, he redefined what a zombie genre medium could be. And with this, it's very interesting because it's one of those stories where it plays on the fact where you don't have to be religious to follow this. You have to be just open to a supernatural fantasy. You have this reverend character who's constantly trying to justify things that they're experiencing throughout the issues through what he knows from the Bible and things like that. And you have Kyle, who has experienced stuff with demonic possession before with his mother. His mother was possessed by a demon as a child.
Nice. Jeez, that's scary.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's kind of scary.
The panel work really sells the tone of it too. It makes it just a little bit more you get that hair on the back of your neck, the goosebumps.
Yeah, the
it
art
has
is
such a gravity to it.
I was gonna say the art is incredible. I looked at the first three.
Yeah, it's really great, and Reverend Anderson goes to find Kyle, and with his former experience, he's having trouble exorcising this demon from this boy named Josh. And he's like, long time ago, you exorcised a demon out of your mom. Can you come and help me out with this? And Kyle has this negative air about him throughout town as the kid who beat up his mom when he was younger and grew up and beat his wife and beat his child.
So the outcasts.
That is another way to look at it. It's kind of a double entendre when you think about it. But, little does the town know his mom was possessed by a demon. Later on, his wife became possessed by a demon and attacked their daughter.
I was just going to ask, was he really beating all these brothers?
No.
Or was he just beating the demons out of these
He
brothers?
was literally beating the demons out of them.
Wow.
His touch is very unpleasant to someone possessed.
I bet a bunch of violent hillbillies wish they knew that story so they could use that excuse.
Yeah. There was a demon.
Devil
she
woman.
was possessed, officer. She
That's
was
where the
possessed.
devil
She really
woman
was.
phrase came
Oh,
from.
my God.
All right, go on.
Lord.
Sorry.
No offense to the hillbillies.
Okay, so
I said violent.
Oh, all right. All right. Speaking of another good book. Anyway.
So when Reverend Anderson and Kyle go to visit this boy Josh, he looks at Kyle and he says, "I know you. You're outcast." What does that mean? And we know your kind. And he's talking like he knows him. And he's like, all right, well, he's trying to talk to this kid, and the Reverend's doing the typical, cross, holy water, all this stuff, and he's really just laughing at him. It's like, you have no power here, blah, blah, blah. And Kyle's like, well, my mom hated sunlight. He rips the curtains off, and the thing's scouring, and it's hiding, it's freaking out. And he's trying to grab this kid, and the kid's demon strength, kicking him in the face and just throwing stuff around, and he bites Kyle's hand. And while he's freaking out, the blood gets in the kid's mouth and it starts to burn him. And he starts choking on it. And Kyle puts more of his blood in his mouth and the kid starts convulsing. You see a black mist come out of him and he's cleansed. And
So his blood has like holy power?
Yeah, there's something about what he is being an outcast, as the demons refer to him as, that has some kind of hold over them. As you go on, Reverend Anderson starts talking to Kyle about more people in town. It's not like the whole town's possessed, but there's a lot of frequent possession in the area, possession encounters in the area. And once they start going through a couple of them, they're getting different results. Reverend Anderson comes to this realization that, oh my God, like all these people that are possessed that we're going to visit are people I've supposedly cleansed before, that I've performed successful exorcisms
Plot
on.
twist.
Yeah. And the whole time, as I said, you have this dynamic of Reverend Anderson who's like, well, the book tells us this, so that means this is on our side. And Kyle's like, We don't know any of that stuff is accurate. All I know is when I go into this room and touch these people, whatever evil's in them is really uncomfortable by it. So you have the dynamic of one who's been believing his whole life and one who's believing what he's seeing.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So it almost sounds like that these supernatural entities are drawn to this outcast character, and everyone around him is suffering in his life.
Yeah, to not give away any major events, but after a couple of really crucial exorcisms, you find out that you really don't know what an outcast is even by the 16th issue of it. Because there's one where he says, outcast from where? Where am I outcast from? And they just say, like, they don't tell him. But they say, we get stronger when you're around.
So in a normal what we've seen from Kirkman before through Walking Dead is that he has a lot of extraordinary like background and side characters. Is there a lot of that in this?
Yeah, it doesn't just follow Kyle and Reverend Anderson. There's also Kyle's sister, who's his foster sister. So there's a different dynamic than a blood sister. They both grew up in a pretty bad foster home where she was actually abused by one of their other foster siblings until he started sleeping in her room every night to chase the guy away.
Wow. And Kirkman makes these incredible stories. I mean,
when he runs into that guy, he sees him in the street, and his name's Donnie, and he's just like, Donnie? And he's like, yeah, oh, Kyle, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, yeah, I remember you. I'm sorry, I was a dumb idiot. And it's like, you're a dumb idiot. Later on, he was sexually abusing his foster sister. So he's like, that wasn't something you do when you're a dumb young kid.
Yeah.
And he starts beating this guy. It's like in the street fighting this guy. And a cop comes over who's his sister's brother. So it's his brother-in-law. And he's like, what are you doing? Why are you fighting someone? Because like I said, he has that bad history of violence from the perspective of people. Yeah. He's like, oh my God, you're beating someone else now. And he's like, no, this is Donnie. And he goes, and just starts hitting the guy. He just starts hitting the guy. Yeah.
So in the perspective of everything you would ever want to do to someone like that, you get like everything you want to see.
Totally.
Cool.
that's awesome.
It's really crazy.
It's very dark.
It is. It's very
that's
dark.
Kirkman.
Yeah. Well, what else has he written? You got Walking Dead and Outcast?
Invincible.
Tech Jacket. Another one.
Lots of
Tech
spin-offs
Jacket.
from Invincible, too, like, what was it, Fire Breather?
Yep.
And
Wolfman.
Those are all stories that... And Wolfman, I think, even got optioned into, like, a Telltale Games series.
And then, along with side characters, you have the Devil. It's a pretty good supporting side character. The first time you actually see... Yeah, well, they insinuate that he's the Devil. Because, again... It's not a for sure heaven and hell structured demonic book.
Yeah.
You have the divide of is it really that or is it something we don't know that's not fully defined yet. But the first time you see him, he's actually in Reverend Anderson's church during a sermon about the devil. Yeah. And he just doesn't really say anything, kind of leaves. Next time you see him, he's actually visiting Kyle's next door neighbor, who's this really polite old man who lost his wife a while back, and they were talking about, what it's like to be married back in the day. And you just see the devil shows up, and he's like, oh, it's a nice evening. And then later on, Kyle goes to his house to borrow his car, and you see the devil answers the door. And he's like, oh, so sorry, your neighbor passed away. I'm his brother. I'm going to just live here, and you can borrow the car still. Here you go. And Kyle doesn't know at this point. But later, after they keep going door to door and fixing more problems, the Reverend gets visited by this man. And he's like, I think I know who you are. And he goes, you probably know me by a few of my more common names. And he's like, the work you're doing needs to stop now. You're finding out forbidden information, and you're getting too close. And he literally takes the Reverend and carves a pentagram in his chest. Oh, jeez. It's like, if you even think about doing this again, you're going to have my mark to remind you not to do that.
That's intense.
Yeah.
So, how you would overall generally say this one? It's very supernatural. Mm-hmm. Almost X-File-esque, right?
Very dark. I mean, the first storyline poses a question that's unlike any other demonic media outlet I've seen, and that's with The Exorcism and other movies like that. You have, oh man, this is really horrible. Someone's possessed by a demon. It's my sister, it's my brother, it's my friend. There's a huge event. You get a pastor in, you get the family in. This one person's cleansed, and you live the rest of your life happily ever after and hope that it never happens again.
In Fairyland.
At the end, in Fairyland, a perfect world. At the end of this first story arc, they're at a gas station, and they're, the whole time they talk about this stuff, with each other, just kind of in the open because people don't pay attention.
Yeah,
really.
Especially if demonic things are a normal normal occurrence
For
you
them,
know.
yeah.
At least in this town, it seems just absolutely horrible.
Yeah, and there's this amazing panel where it's raining and it's a gas station, and Kyle takes a minute and he looks around and he notices a lot of people are paying attention to them, like more than they should. And the question is posed, how deep does this go?
Yeah.
How many people are possessed around here? And as they go on to talk to another possessed older lady that was a failed exorcism patient of Reverend Anderson, that the demons or whatever these evil entities are preparing for a great merge where all of them and all of us are going to come together.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
I think it's really appropriate too that you've got that guy in front of you
And Nicholas Wolfwood.
while you're doing this story.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Nice.
Well, I guess if you like the darker edge of The Walking Dead and Kirkman's stories,
Yeah.
this seems to go that extra little step.
It really does. You have so much different lore with this to where it's why it's more of a supernatural fantasy. Like there's one scene where this demon, is doing demon shit, and it's saying really emotionally pulling things to him.
Yeah.
Like talking about his wife, talking about his kid.
Yeah.
And he starts crying while he's like holding this demon down, and the tears roll into its face and its mouth, and it purifies the person.
Wow.
But they go into a coma because that demon was attached to them for too long, and he forcibly ripped it out.
That's the thing. Like in the Walking Dead, when you actually read Kirkman's writing, it is a lot darker than what you see on the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh,
I would
yeah.
say at least doubly dark.
At least doubly.
double.
Because of the
At least
realistic
doubly.
themes.
Yeah,
like-
because I mean, if that were to actually happen, think of the civilization as we know it, and it changes with Kirkman's writing. Like it's so incredible that I'm gonna have to
And
pick
that's
this.
kind of what I was talking about.
I don't know how to explain
earlier.
this. Like he writes so dark, and it's
Yeah.
so enthralling
And
sometimes.
that's
Yeah.
what I was
People-
talking about earlier with The Preacher.
Yeah.
Like some of these shows, to get that originality, we need to go beyond what cable TV is allowing us to see.
Yeah,
Because
That's-
there's no way that
That
we're going to
is
be
the
able to.
beauty of comic books, though, because
Yeah.
we will always have this unfiltered medium.
yes,
And that's where this fandom starts. That's where it begins. And
Especially in Image,
Yeah.
because even Marvel and DC can't do
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Kirkman going and working on a book like Outcast could be a direct result of the editing he's experiencing working on the Walking Dead TV show.
for sure.
It could be like, you know what? I'm going to do this book. It's going to be the darkest, most horrible shit that I've ever put out. And I can do whatever I want.
It's an outlet.
Yeah,
Because
Well,
they're not going to do the stories like I exactly did them in the Walking Dead comic because they really almost can't.
how aggravating do you think that's got to be for him?
Well, for this,
Like,
it's
I want to
actually-
do this. This is how I wrote it.
He always has this medium though, and
Yeah.
that's where I feel like, and always will be, where his true heart lies.
He actually says, like, many times on The Talking Dead that, like, he gets to retell the story in a different way through this medium.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And people say comic books are nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, one
We're
of the
reading some of the darkest stuff that everybody knows and loves.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
like-
when
like-
you look at the panel work, it's just presents such a dark tone to the entire book. Paul Azacetta's art is just phenomenal. The way he draws people possessed, you can tell there's something behind the eyes where they're not there, and there's a monster there.
and that's what I love about
know.
it. You really got to depict like what the artist is portraying there.
Yeah, and he draws the devil as this clean-cut guy in a suit, old man, nice old man, always smiling. And there's just ends up being a scene where the Reverend loses it, and he starts beating him down.
Oh man.
And he basically, the devil pushed him to do it. And while the Reverend's beating him, rips his shirt in front of everyone. So you see that pentagram.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he stops and the cops are there and they pull him off. And he's like, I'd like to press charges now. And he's smiling, just lumped up.
So in front of his congregation, in front of the town, everything.
Yeah.
He looks like a madman.
monster.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
he's the Reverend. He's supposed to
Yeah.
be. He's supposed to be the light. The
Right.
yeah. And
He's
Kyle has
undermining
a
the thing that can make him suffer the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kyle has a really interesting interaction with him after the fact, to where it's kind of like, I know who you are now. I know what you're all about, and I'm not afraid of you. There's a really interesting where he's just out raking leaves. And of course, being the devil, he has to push the issue. Like, hey, how you doing today? And he's like, good, how are you doing? And he goes to shake his hand. He just holds it. And he's like, doing pretty good? Yeah, I'm doing fine. Yeah. Have a nice long day? Just holding it.
Yeah.
And he's like wincing. And all of a sudden, the devil breaks from it. And he just starts coughing this black blood, which is another effect of Kyle's touch. You know, it's just
Wow.
pretty phenomenal.
It sounds pretty enthralling. And
it is.
Speaking of Black Blood, I think we should make some more honorable mentions to
real quick
all right.
For anyone who's reading Outcast that wants to get involved and actually write Robert Kirkman. In the back of each issue, they're doing a Q&A with him and the editor. You can go on to outcast@skybound.com and send them in an email.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really neat. I like the interaction.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's like the interaction with Scotty on his.
Yeah.
You know,
personalization.
very personal. Yeah, that's cool. So, honorable mentions. I mean, I think we can all mention at least 3 or 4 others, you know, that we would love to talk about, which for me, like I already mentioned Uber. You know, Uber by Kyron Gillen or Guillen. Incredible. You know, it's a history mention. Or Spread by Justin Jordan, who is a lot like Walking Dead. But instead of it being zombies, it's more like it almost seems like a symbiote infestation. Pretty sweet.
That'd be scary.
You know, what else you guys got to add to
Boy,
it? Which ones can you pick? That's the question.
Thinking of an honorable mention. I'll do a throwback. One of my all-time favorite Luna Brothers stories, The Sword.
The Sword, yes.
It's absolutely incredible. It's my favorite one of their works. It's basically a mythic sword that when you hold it, you can't be killed.
Yep.
You can be blown apart, but you'll just immediately be back together. And as long as your hand's on that thing, you're going to be okay, and you can pretty much destroy anybody with it. And that's the focal point of the story.
How did I not pick that up yet? You told me that like 2 weeks ago, and you're like, you got to read it. And I have it. I have it on the shelves. I'm like, I need to read it. Don't read it. That's
a great mythology that goes all the way back to the dawn of mankind.
That's awesome. And that's my kind of thing. Let's go back to history. Let's get some history going here.
It's good stuff.
Danny, do you have any other honorable mentions?
You know
I know
what?
you don't read
Right
much.
now, I don't pick up any really more Image books that I'm collecting right now.
Which one are you gonna pick up now?
Dude,
you just heard
like,
a ton. Of
having
good
been
stuff.
a part of this panel, I'm definitely on board to pick up at least a couple more.
Yeah.
You know, the sci-fi fantasy one really like Descender sounds
amazing.
Yeah. Beautiful art.
And I am a huge fan of Kirkman, so I might think about looking into that too.
Yeah, it's unlike any other demonic thing I've seen.
It just sounds so cool. I'm probably gonna start reading more.
Demons, yeah. Demons are metal.
So I mean, you know, I'm like one with the audience here. I'm kind of freshly on board. I collected Image like back in the 90s, and I stopped after like Gen 13 kind of trailed off, and you know, I started ending when they ended. There.
What was your favorite of the first like launch? Because you said you got all of them too. Like,
I mean, I loved Deathblow. Like I said, I loved Team 7. I loved Gen 13. You know, all those were like amazing books for me. So
well, see, I would like to make mention that those books, as mediocre as they was, in my opinion, to what is happening now, they were incredible for their time.
Oh yeah.
You know, just coming out of Marvel and DC and into the Image publishing when they launched all that stuff.
Yeah,
the good stories. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
The Image books back then were a direct echoing of what all those creators had been working on for most of their careers.
Yeah. You know, and
that's where their art and their storytelling came from.
And I want to bring that again to your analogy to the American colonies because it is so
like it was
perfect.
Image's like Silver Age or Golden Age.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
it really was. Yeah.
Cam, what would you mention other than yours?
My honorable mentions is sticking with Robert Kirkman. I love Invincible. That is one of my favorite books. Probably everyone knows Batman is my favorite character in comics, but favorite superpowered character with actual powers might actually be Mark Grayson, the main character of Invincible. It's so different than anything I've seen, and I picked up the first couple issues, or the first actual couple trades when Alan Ann's was going out of business, and I got so into it that when I went to C2E2, I just started buying stacks of trades. And I'm still not caught up, but
believe the artist from Invincible is going to be there. This
yeah,
year.
Ryan Otley.
Yeah.
So
Otley's a man.
Beautiful.
yeah, I love it. It's so great. Birthright.
I was
too.
just gonna say.
Birthright!
I was waiting for you to say Birthright.
Oh,
Please
it's
say
good,
Birthright.
man.
Please say Birthright. Please
It's
say Birthright.
so good. So good. Just read the first trade of that recently, and oh my god, it's amazing.
I mean, do you want to describe that or me? I mean, we could.
Oh, we can go back and forth. A little give and take here.
All right. So,
Double entendre.
Yeah.
kid lives happily in his home.
Then he goes out to play catch with his dad.
Goes to another dimension.
All of a sudden, his parents start losing their shit.
Come back.
All of a sudden, his parents start losing their shit.
Fights off crazy wizards, dragons, beasts, and becomes the champion of the world. Yay!
Yeah, pretty much. And his dad, oh man, the dynamic is so great. Like Image books are, not to get really long-winded with it, but what would really happen if a kid went missing and there's no explanation for it? They blame the dad.
Yeah.
You know, you killed your kid.
And then the kid, a grown man, comes back 3 days later like, oh, I'm your son.
Yeah, I think it's a
Wait,
year
no,
maybe.
dude.
A year maybe. Because some time went by.
It wasn't long. It was
No.
not long. I would say
Okay.
maybe 2 weeks tops.
Yeah, it was a short time.
Because it was long enough for his parents to get divorced. Because their divorce
this-
when he comes back.
I thought that happened after he comes back.
Yeah, it's
Because-
after he comes back, but during the time he was gone, I'm saying. So I don't know.
I
It
read
might
it
be
so long ago.
Anyway, he's gone for some time.
These
It's
are-
accelerated
These are
in the world.
ages ago. I don't remember.
In the world he goes to, it doesn't really matter how long he's gone because he's an adult when he comes back.
Oh, for sure.
And he's already
looks like
fought
this guy a little
dragons
bit.
and stuff. Long hair.
Frolicking along the sand with those ponytail, long, beautiful hair.
With a cloud strike sword.
Slaying dragons and fire trolls.
I feel you need to go slay dragons now.
This was in no this was in no small part inspired by my love of Robert E. Howard and Conan. So. It's also my barbaric middle finger to modern day.
Yes, well played. So that's good for our honorable mention section. Next is on Picks of the Week, because we do that every week, and I love it, because so many good books are coming out next week. Can't believe it. Bert and Ernie agree. James, what would you pick for next week coming up?
My pick of the week is a deep independent book.
It is.
Yes. It's Jim Henson's Dragons. It's episode issue 4. It's basically a series that covers historical mythological tales of dragons that are passed through different cultures, and then puts it to image, puts it to picture.
It's awesome.
And my favorite issue by far so far was the Native American father water dragon story. It was phenomenal. Highly recommend it. It's really fun. You could actually read these to children even.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it as an adult.
Yeah.
It's just pure fantasy mythos.
How's the art?
It's gorgeous. And a different artists on each one.
Oh, cool.
And it's an all ages book. Like
that
you were
definitely
saying.
sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm a big artist. I've been drawing forever, so I love
And
it.
with the Jim Henson title on it, like they've really
What is
upped
wrong with
the
you?
quality.
I thought there was so much cynicism in your voice.
Really?
That
Sounds cool,
It
man.
sounded sinister. No, I was.
I
was being
only
real.
strung my guitar at 3 a.m.
I did do that.
I know that's the funny part.
But no, I was
yeah.
actually being real. Like, I'm an artist, so I love that stuff.
All right, cool. I was like, this sounds so
fun.
like,
I can kind of get that.
But no, it's
Sorry, Jim.
no, it's totally fine. Like
That was cool. Yes.
it's certainly not anything to be taken over seriously. It's just really beautiful and really unique.
No, I was
Something goofy
being
and fun.
genuine.
The covers look amazing. I've seen the covers when they come out, and it's really neat.
Viewers, if you thought that was non-genuine, blog on it, please, because I felt that sounded so cynical.
See his face every time you see the clip. You see his face.
Time you think of sarcasm. You see his face.
All right, Danny, take it away. What's your next week's pick?
I have to go with Extraordinary X-Men #8.
Solid.
Like, I'm a nut for that book, of course. So,
Have you read any of the Assault on Pleasant Hill yet?
what's that?
Oh no, Apocalypse War is coming up. That's the
right, that's the
Apocalypse
next
War, not the
story.
Assault.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Very soon.
I
Looking
cannot
forward to it.
wait. I cannot wait.
Should be cool.
Yeah.
And right in time for the movie.
Just like
gonna be
Civil War 2,
not
isn't
too
that a
long.
coincidence?
Yeah, Civil War 2 is
Civil War
happening.
2 that's coming out, you know?
I know.
It's like, oh, well.
How did that happen?
Hint, hint.
I think it's like 2 months now. It's gonna come out.
Disney and Marvel have some kind of thing going.
Wait. Well, yeah. They just released. Disney Princess and no, Disney Princess was that wasn't a Marvel book. I thought it was.
It sounds like a Marvel book.
I think it was. I think it was. A
Oh, wait,
kid book.
Disney Princess was a Marvel book. Don't they call it Iron Man?
Oh, don't even start with that.
I mean, that guy
Without
wishes he
Tony
was
Stark,
Batman.
where would the Avengers be?
That was like you need an old timey comedy record scratch sound effect right there. Like gears all stop. Like
Get out of here. Tony Stark was a millionaire, and he brought the Avengers to where they are.
talking
I'm a Tony Stark fan too.
Straight up,
Stark Tower.
like I think weakest princess is Princess and the Frog.
Why are we talking about princess?
I mean, you guys brought it up, so I'm just
It's a
gonna throw it
Marvel
out there.
topic.
It's a Marvel topic.
I'm just
Oh,
gonna bring
I
it
will
up.
say though, I just read Haunted Mansion last week. It was actually surprisingly good because they did the Disney, they're doing like Disney stuff.
Did it have
Haunted
Eddie
Mansion.
Murphy in it?
I wish. No,
Because he was in that movie.
he was. It was pretty bad. They do have a character that's similar. I don't think it's Eddie Murphy. though.
Okay. So he doesn't put any bananas in tailpipes or anything?
Anyway, Shaft, go.
All right. Well, I think it was going to be Robin, Son of Batman, because Damien's my favorite Robin. But I got to go with Sinestro, give the lean toward the villain. His book is so fun. It's one of my top 5 favorite books. I'm reading it all right now.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about in the top 10 DC villains, Sinestro, that is actually what got me reading Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Yep. Remember, I'm not
That's
a
cool.
DC guy.
Yeah.
But you guys and your Sinestro Green Lantern talk, I'm reading them all.
I typically like the other lanterns, like the Red Lanterns. The new 52 Red Lanterns run was amazing. Guy Gardner and his new look. So cool. And yellow, Sinestro.
Sinestro.
Good stuff.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Damien. That is the cover of your intro art.
I know.
That is it.
I'm going with a heel turn this week.
I
I'm
get
going
it.
for villains.
That's your obvious love. That would
Yeah.
be too obvious a pick.
yeah. Pretty much.
Kind of disgusted.
I'm a
He's doing that
filthy
voice
human
again.
being.
I swear he's doing it on purpose.
He's like, no, that time I was like,
That was
legit,
real.
you are disgusting. You make me sick.
I can't even go straight face on that one. All right. My pick. So I have 2 of them. Now,
All of them.
all of them. Yeah. I want everything. No, International Iron Man's coming out. Number 1 is coming out next week. Don't even start with Tony Stark. Somehow he's international. I don't know how that works. But it's by Bendis and Malieve, 2 amazing creators, and I just already know it's going to be a great book. So, since it's an Image section, I'm not going to pick it. Right? Dun, dun, dun. Who'd have thought?
Well, they
so-
already made an International Hulk.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know where to go with that. either.
Incredible!
I don't know. We're not going. We're not going there. But I'm going to pick Monstrous number 4. I picked Monstrous number 3 last time. Monstrous number 4, and number 3 just blew my socks off. Like literally, they just came flying off. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with Monstrous number 4. Again, normally I'd pick.
Was
I'd go with Tony Stark.
your sock on the right body part when it happened?
We don't talk about that. That is a story to be told another day. So anyway, thanks for tuning in on to the Heroes Edge Collectibles podcast, episode number 6. This was the Image Miscellaneous Publishers section. And next week we are going to be talking about C2E2 because all of us are going to be there. All of us will be taking all of us will be taking video blogs of some things, and we will all be posting on this.
Best event of the year.
Now, keep in mind, it's going to be awesome. That's really where it's going to
That
be.
in mind.
Very chill. We're
Thanks
all gonna be
again.
tired.
Thanks to Jim.
Yeah.
for coming out.
Coming out.
I forgot
Special
to thank
guest.
our special guest.
I
Thank you.
had an absolute blast. This was so much fun. It definitely inspired a lot of old feelings in me.
We'll take that as a pro.
And I hope Darren had a good time with his mutant rights fight.
Hopefully,
Again,
didn't
thanks for joining us.
Fight too many nasty inhumans.
Yeah, right. Black Bolt will rip them apart. We know this. We already know this. Thanks again. Have a good night.